So with that, I am very happy that Jean-Louis Demers has agreed to speak to us this morning. I have a few details to give you a bit of his background. He lives in Québec City. Jean-Louis is a librarian, retired after 25 years in academic libraries. And he's currently a volunteer with hospice in Québec City and is their, serves as their archivist. And although he has fully embraced Quaker membership, he also follows Benedictine practices and has done so since 2012. Now, I'm going to invite Wendy Sturton, a Montreal monthly meeting, to say a few more words about Jean-Louis. Wendy and I have been in a worship group for some years together, and it was her enthusiasm and about Jean-Louis's vision and his practice that really piqued my curiosity and led me to seek him out. So Wendy. She's there. I saw her online.
I saw her there.
So if Wendy speaks, we should be able to see her.
She's back now.
Well, she probably is, but I'm still not seeing her on the screen.
She was.
Oh, there she is.
There she is, Wendy. Did you hear me?
She's muted.
No, for some reason, I lost connection just as this process started. So no, I didn't hear you.
Well, now we have you. And Wendy, I'm asking you to just say a few words about Jean-Louis, because it was your enthusiasm and your expression about Jean-Louis that really piqued my curiosity. And so from Wendy's speaking, oh my goodness.
We don't exist.
Wow.
The entire meeting was apparently disconnected. We're still on this laptop.
I can see her here.
Yes.
Oh.
This happened yesterday morning. Yesterday morning. My goodness, isn't that something?
Rosemary, Wendy is still on the laptop here. It may be difficult to hear
It's
her.
W. Sturton. My name is W. Sturton. And
Got it.
I'm waving at you.
We're back. We hear you now. So Wendy, tell us what you have to say about Jean-Louis. And then,
Well-
and then Jean-Louis, after Wendy has finished, you will please take the microphone.
Please, Wendy, just say the best about me.
I'll be kind
Okay.
and truthful and truthful. It's hard to summarize in a few words what Jean-Louis means to me personally. I've grown up in Quebec, and any friendship that's forged between the two cultures, English and French, has been very precious to me. This is an extremely precious one. I guess I just was completely overwhelmed by Jean-Louis's tenacity and persistence in working on founding this group of Quakers in Quebec City, one of my favorite cities in the world, where he is fortunate to live. And he is a loving, gentle, eloquent man who doesn't say a lot. But when he speaks, you listen. And so he and the Spirit have gathered together a group which are wonderful. Anytime we visit from Montreal, there's a sense of awe. And when I consider that Jean-Louis's patience in making this possible is at the root of it, he's a wonderful man. So I'm really glad that he's here to tell the story from his point of view.
Thank you, Wendy. Is the sound okay for everybody?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I would like first to thank you, all of you very much for your invitation to talk about the French side of Quakerism here in Quebec City. You notice that English is not my first language. I speak with a broken English. Sorry for that. So, but everything is written, so it can help me, but I hope I will not read all the time for you. It will be more pleasant to be more spontaneous. Today, I will try to explain how the French-speaking Quaker group in Quebec City came into being. I have been asked to share with you both the practical aspects of this experience and how the idea came to me, as well as the perseverance required to bring it to fruition. The presentation will be in 3 parts. First, I will summarize how I came personally into contact with Quakerism. Then I will try to explain what you call in English a concern. It's a word that is very difficult to translate in French in the English and especially the Quaker meaning of this word. But it's a very important word for me, and you will know why a bit later. Next, I will briefly share some practical considerations for setting up such a group, and I will conclude by discussing the future prospects and hopes I have for this group. During my presentation, I will sometimes take a little pause, just to give us the time for a reflection, a very short stop, maybe some seconds, just to have the time to I would say, digest the words and their meaning. I have been familiar with Quakerism for over 30 years. I can't believe that. It was through personal research driven by my curiosity that I came across books and articles on Quakerism. Where I lived, it was impossible for me to meet people who were part of a Quaker community, and it was only much later that I had the opportunity to attend a service in Montreal. I was living at this time in La Pocatière. It's a town maybe 1.5 hours from Quebec City. And at this time, there was no internet. Before the pandemic, you know, Zoom was Skype existed, but it was not very common. So it was absolutely impossible to be in contact with a Quaker community and to participate in a worship where I lived. So I just have to content myself with readings. When I arrived in Quebec City, as a retired librarian, I decided to try to start a group. This idea came to me because I have always believed that the spirituality, despite being nearly 400 years old, has a very contemporary aspect that can meet the spiritual needs of many people. I would now like to talk to you more specifically about what was on my mind about this famous concert. Why put so much energy into a fragile, difficult, and perhaps even futile project? This idea was more than just an idea. It was an inner motion. It was something inside. From the very first steps I took, I knew that giving up was not an option. I quickly realized that I was driven by what we call, in the Quaker vocabulary, a concern. In French, the verb concerner, to concern, can have a very negative connotation, as it can refer to worry, anxiety, and preoccupation. That's not how I perceived it at this time. I saw it more as something that stems from an interest or a project that we are passionate about and that drives us to achieve it. The question I was asking to myself were, what should I do? How can I do it? It was possible to ignore, and giving up was not an option, despite the many challenges it presented. Setting up a spiritual group, even a small one, in a context as secular as Quebec society, sometimes seemed utopian. However, as I said, and I will say it again, giving up was not an option. What did I really want to do? Here are some answers. First, the aspect of bringing together people with similar spiritual questions seemed to me to be enough to continue. Of course, I also enjoyed it because I had the intuition that what I was doing was important. Bringing people together, putting them in contact with each other, exchanging ideas, being in silence in the same place, all of that was meaningful to me. You know, Quakerism is a lot about love, about even with the differences of the people, color, gender, language, nationalities. It's not an easy task. My grandmother, who was a fervent Catholic, was looking at the people on the street, and she said frequently, "I can't believe we will be in paradise with all those people." So living as a Quaker is a challenge, of course, everyday challenge. We always have to ask to ourselves, am I right? Is my first impression is the good one or not? It's really interesting to notice that. Given the scarcity of documentation available in French on Quakerism, I immediately saw that this was a challenge. In fact, more than 90% of the information available on Quakers is in English. And what's more, it is written by Quakers themselves. So it's a circular communication. Quakers love circles. And I began a master degree about the history of Quakerism in Quebec. It was before the pandemic. And I have made a literature review in Revue de la Littérature. And I noticed that it was a very, how can I say, a surprise for me that how all the literature about Quakerism was only in English and from Quakers themselves. However, certain events led to the emergence of this group. Among other things, I think back to my first contacts in Montreal with David Summerhays. He's not here today, but he's a good friend. And he was offering a basic online course on Quaker spirituality. We then had the idea of offering the same course in French. David already had contacts with a few French speakers who were interested in Quakers. The course, I translated, contributed greatly to the birth of the group in Quebec City. It was the initial spark that brought this project to fruition I don't know how to pronounce this word, Fruition, but I suppose you know what it means. As I brought together people on a spiritual quest and offered them a free voice to guide them in their journey. Unfortunately, many of these people lived far from Quebec City. One of them, Clara Groisel, who comes from Brittany in France, contributed significantly to the project through her motivation, simply by ensuring that I was not the only one carrying it forward. The first challenge we faced was finding a place where we could meet. After checking with various organizations and churches, I had the pleasure of being put in touch with the Anglican Bishop of Quebec City. Already familiar with Quakerism, he responded extremely positively, graciously offering us to use of the chapel adjacent to the cathedral called All Saints Chapel. It was in this place that our first meetings took place, the very first of which welcomed Quakers from Montreal who came to Quebec City to support us. I still have fond memories of that time. Subsequently, as our numbers were very small, there were a few occasions when there were 3 of us, 2 of us, or just me alone. But as I said, giving up was not an option. And we also had a worship place in Lévis on the south shore of Quebec City because we had some interesting people coming from this area. It was in a cafe with a social mission. It was interesting because it was sometimes extremely noisy. There was a little room just at the back of the cafe, and people going to the toilet had to cross this room. So we were disturbed all the time. But spiritually, it was interesting because we were making silence in the noise of the world. And it's also a place where the cafe welcome people with some mental health issues. And I remember during one worship, a woman came and she sat with us. But she didn't know the rules of the Quaker meeting, of course. And she began to talk and to ask and to... So we had to interrupt the silent meeting to welcome her and to answer her questions. And it was, I think, one of the most spiritual part of this worship this day. It was not the silence. It was just the fact to welcome someone completely stranger to Quakerism, asking questions like, what are you doing? Why you don't talk? What is the goal of that? It was very, very, I have good remembers of that. Another challenge. Quakerism is deeply connected to its British roots, linked to a culture and way of thinking inherent to its history and geographical origins. Moreover, if we look at the various Quaker groups or communities that exist in non-English speaking countries, we quickly see that the inherent culture of Quakerism has rarely been inculturated. I'm a subscriber to the French Quakers newsletter, Quakers from France, and I noticed that in their the last edition, that all the articles were written in French, but by English speakers. All the name of the authors are English names. I went to participate in Quaker services in the Paris community, and more than half of the participants were English speakers. But why am I bringing this up to you? Simply because it was impossible to reproduce Quakerism exactly as it exists in a different cultural context. We have to adapt the way we do the things to the cultural context where we live. It was essential that our practices be adapted to the French-speaking cultural context of Quebec. But what does that mean? Small things, in fact, really. Example, we tried to begin the worship. You know, when you go out, when I go in Montreal, maybe it changes a little bit, but when I was going to Montreal, I just entered the room and all the people were already in silence. It can be very impressive. And then find a place to sit and stay quiet for around an hour. It doesn't work in Quebec. Not at all. People, they love to talk. And we talk a lot before the silence meeting, before the silence worship. And of course, it's also the occasion to welcome the new people and to explain how we do the worship, why we are doing that and this and that, and how are you? How was your week? And da 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 da. Okay, and then after that, everybody are comfortable, and then we can sit and begin the silent worship. And so I think that adaptation to the cultural context is very important if you want to have a more open Quakerism to other cultural context. And it's also difficult practically because habitually, if you want to be a member of a committee, you have to have your membership of the Quaker. You have to be an official Quaker. It's pretty easy to find members in Great Britain, in the UK, but in Quebec City, it's quite different. So if we want to have people involved in a committee, we have to forget this rule, because we cannot work like that. Okay. So the tradition is important, but sometimes it can be a limitation. Now, what is the future? If there is one thing that is difficult to predict, is the future. I think our group has reached a certain level of maturity and stability. The fact is, however, that there are not many of us. This means that everyone's involvement is important if we want to avoid always having the same person or people leading the group. Like any community, periods of growth alternate with periods of pause. I don't know what will become of this group in 10 years. However, I do know that whatever direction it takes, it will be the one that the Spirit has given it. It remains confident in its longevity because I am certain that I remain confident in its longevity because I am certain that it fulfills a spiritual need. Let's not forget that French-speaking Quakerism does not necessarily have to exist only in Quebec City or even in the province of Quebec. I say French-speaking, but it could be any other language. The idea to remember is that people of different cultures and languages can find in a Quaker assembly a welcome, an openness, and a receptivity that will make them feel at home. Quakerism must become universal and cease to be confined to a single language and culture. The immense spiritual richness of Quakerism deserves better than that, because Quakerism contains all the ingredients of an open and contemporary spirituality that, in my opinion, is unknown or unrecognized. I am delighted that we have been invited by the Centre Saint-Pierre in Montreal. Centre Saint-Pierre is it's a social and spiritual center in Montreal, and they organize at the beginning of September an activity called Open Doors to Spirituality. It's in French, Portes ouvertes sur la spiritualité. And I'm delighted that we have been invited as Quaker to organize a workshop. I don't say it, but to let the people have the experience of a silent worship together. So it's wonderful because most of the people there don't know anything about Quakerism, and they will, during this day, have the opportunity to be more informed and to have the experience of a silent worship and all the meanings of this activity. So it will be at the beginning of December in Montreal, and I think I don't know if many people will participate, but they reserved us a room with 50 to 60 places. So if it's full, I will be more than delighted. Wait. Okay. And then I don't know if I just had my 20 minutes or not. But what we should be retained from this short presentation. In fact, the answers are a list of questions. What is the inner motion I have inside me? Why it seems important to try to gather people together for spiritual purposes. What is the meaning of a community for me or for us? Why is it important to overcome challenges related to the culture, the language, the distance, and all those differences? Do the answers to these questions are of spiritual nature? So I think that to find the answer to those questions, and you will know what to do. So I am deeply grateful to you for inviting me to share my experience. I have tried to be as truthful as possible and to speak from the heart, and I hope that this meeting will nourish your reflection and, who knows, bear fruits. And finally, if you come to Quebec City, you will be more than welcome to participate in a Quaker worship with a little Frenchy flavor.
So Jean-Louis, we will take time for a brief time for Q&A.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have, in your meetings, do you have also online people coming from outside Quebec City?
Yes. Yes, we meet we have one worship in person per month, and we also have one worship online per month. And during the online worship, we welcome people from Saguenay. We have people from Montreal, from Eastern Townships, and because they cannot participate in person, of course. But yes, we have one online meeting per month and one in-person meeting per month.
Thank you for your talk. It was very interesting.
Speak over here a little louder.
Thank you, Jean-Louis. A question is, how do you let people know that you exist?
At the beginning, I made some small announcement, and I put it in some places in Quebec City, at the university, and the bulletin board and things like that, just to start something. But we also have a leaflet. In Montreal, it will be available there, but it's not easy to publicize this kind of activity. But I tried at the beginning. We had some people from the university who came, and unfortunately, I know about the pandemic. I'm sure you know about the pandemic, and it stopped everything for a couple of years. Just when we at the moment we were just starting something, and all the habits changed so much, and Zoom meeting were now possible. So yeah.
I can look. Are there people in the Roman Catholic community? You mentioned the Benedictines who
Yeah.
would share similar interest in a mystical approach.
Yes, of course. But myself, I'm a Quaker first, but I really love the monastical spirituality and the rule of Benedict. It's a very old text, but when the values of this rule can be, there's an overlap, in my view, between the rule of Benedict and the Quakers. And we welcome some Catholic, yes, yes, who are interested, but the Catholic really love the liturgy, you know, all the ceremonials and things like that, and it's totally absent in Quakerism. So they find it deep, spiritually deep, but bizarre for some of them.
Friends on, online.
Hi, I am part of a small worship group out in southwestern Ontario, and one of our challenges is we are an all-adult group with not any small children, and I haven't heard you refer to any children participation. Have you given any consideration as to, are you interested in having families come? Have you decided that this is going to be just an adult group? What are your thoughts about that?
So if we have children, we will be delighted to have children and families, of course. And there is a first day school in Montreal, and I think they welcome some children from a French family from Belgium. But yes, families and children are always welcome. But unfortunately, we don't have at this moment young people with.
Thank you.
Jean-Louis, could you tell us a little bit more about what the character of the community is? You spoke a little bit about the social aspect at the start, but what more can you tell us about what it's like in the community?
It's a diverse community. Like many Quaker community, most of them are middle class, well-educated, and white people. And but they share some things in common, and we really love to discuss together. After the worship, we always stay for lunch, or we go in a cafe somewhere, and we stay there for maybe 1 or 2 hours, eating together and discussing together. And I think, in my view, it's a part of the worship, to have the opportunity to be together and to exchange about different questions. We don't talk about when I say the choses et d'autres. We talk most of the time about spiritual questions, and it's always very interesting, and people really like it. They really like it. We tried to begin an activity of craft, like they do in Montreal, but we didn't have many success with that. But you know, we are not so many. When we have a big worship, it would be around 12 people. but sometimes we are between 5 and 10 most of the time.
Friends, I feel that we could go on at some length because there's clearly a real energy both from Jean-Louis, but also in our interest. However, we do need to draw this to a close now, and I'll ask Junetta if you would just en français.
Jean-Louis, on m'a choisi parce que je parle français.
A little closer here.
Oh, sorry.
To this microphone in the
Alright.
middle.
So I can't look at the screen and look at this.
I don't
so
think
there-
your
there's
screen
a
is here.
screen over
This
here.
is the
So unfamiliar.
speaker here.
Okay. It's me. Bonjour Jean-Louis.
Bonjour.
On m'a choisi parce que je parle français et ça me fait plaisir parce que je viens de Bécomo. Tous mes ancêtres sont là, mes enfants sont nés là. I told Jean-Louis that they picked me because I speak French. You know. And I'm happy because my family are 350 miles northeast of where Jean-Louis is. And if I was still there, I'd be so happy. So if I ever go back home there, I will stop in Québec City to see you. Merci beaucoup, hein, de...
Tu seras très bienvenu si ça te tente de joindre à nous. We welcome some people, some tourists. You know, Quebec City is full of tourists, and we welcome sometimes people from the United States. And yes.
When I was living in Bécomo, if we wanted to go south, we would go to Quebec City. Because they were a few months ahead of us in the spring with lilacs. Je tiens à vous remercier de votre travail au sein de la Société des Amis religieuses des Quakers et puis pour votre participation jointe à nous, afin de nous aider à parler des moyens d'aller élargir nos communautés. I said I'm really grateful to Jean-Louis for joining us today and giving us a vision of how to enlarge our own communities, which our meetings are not that much smaller than yours, Jean-Louis. Avant tout, en ce moment historique, parce que nous sommes dans une église qui était une peuple uni avant la séparation et en 54, on s'est divisé, puis aujourd'hui on se réunit ici. So I said in 1954, we were separate, we were together as a religious community, but we haven't been since, so it's an historic day for us to come together, and particularly to also have the francophone participation from Quebec. It's quite wonderful. Et ce fut un grand plaisir de se rencontrer ici et d'entendre votre message qui m'inspire et qui inspire d'autres. I said it's a real pleasure to have him inspire us and to hear his message of how we can use his ways of reaching out. We have a little book we're going to offer you. I understand you already have a copy, but you can share it. It's Foi et pratique du christianisme dans la Société religieuse des Amis Quakers. Ça vient de l'Assemblée de France. I don't know why Assemblée de France was blacked out when I bought this. It's Faith and Practice of Christianity and the Religious Society of Friends Quaker. So I'm going to be sending this, I think Aaron or Kathy Aaron's going to be mailing it out. And Jean-Louis already has a copy, but he can share it with whoever might want one. It's quite old. I can't remember the date on it, but it's quite
Every
old.
text in French about Quakerism is very precious.
Yeah, and I'm ready to let this one go and have another life. So as you can see, just from the way it's written, it's really old. And it harkens back to our more simple one, what I call the Blue Book, which I was given when I became a Quaker. Merci beaucoup, Jean-Louis. J'ai au plaisir de vous rencontrer, peut-être en personne un jour. So,
Merci
thank you.
beaucoup. It was a real pleasure, and I wish you all the best for your projects.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Louis. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that now, we'll say goodbye, Jean-Louis and Wendy, and end the recording.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.